This was a great weekend. But even before it started, I knew it would be great because, my daughter got honored at the Luke for being a bridge builder. So, she's had 2 strokes, but above and beyond, she continued to finish the school portion of her medical degree, and now she's just waiting to do the exam. But the church honored her for coming back in her stroke state as she is recovering and decided to work within the church as well. And not just building bridges between the younger folks and the older folks, but also taking care of people who need health care at the church. So she, along with 3 of her young brethren, they were honored yesterday at the church, the St. Luke Church, or it's called now the Luke in Humble, Texas. And I just want to give my daughter a big shout out, a big congratulations for whatever she intends to complete when she intends to complete, or whatever she wants to do, because a life she has lived. A life she has lived. Anyhow, folks, the first story. This was a great weekend. And as usual, I spoke to many people, whether it was about my living book or just in general. Being a part of a living library is always fun. A living library is where some organization, in this case, it was done at Lone Star College, but it was put on together by the Bridge, Be the Bridge, I think is what it's called. It's an organization that was put together by Dr. Jay Tice from Lone Star College, and he got 2 ministers, 2 preachers, 2 reverends, 2 pastors together. Chad from Kingwood Christian Church, as well as Dr. Sloan from the Loop. And what they had put together was something known as a living library. And what is the living library? A whole bunch of folks that have stories to tell. They got together and told their stories. They were checked out like books, and they sat down and spoke to people as they told their stories. I had a story to tell. So they asked me to be a part of the living library as well. Anyway, people read a synopsis. They read a synopsis of your book, and if they like it, they check you out. And you sit at a table and tell your story. I've always loved doing this. Go ahead, Tom. Come on in.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Tom?
Real good. How about yourself?
Great. Talk to me, sir.
Well, to start off with, I enjoy your program very much.
Thank you so kindly.
Recently, I was watching TV. AARP is running an ad. You might be familiar with it.
Yes.
I'd just like to call it to your attention.
Yes, sir.
They're advertising this Advantage Medicare insurance. And I'd like to know, I'm an AARP member. I'm aggravated because of this. What can a person do?
Let me tell you what you can do. First of all of us who are AARP members, we should contact them and tell them to stop the false advertising. Let me qualify something, Tom, and because here's a problem that we're having, right? I do not like or support Medicare Advantage at all. But
I don't either.
Great. But here's the issue. For some people, it is all they can afford. I hate to say that, but after doing the research and so forth, Medicare Advantage is such in the hock of some in the federal government that here's what they've done. Let's say you are an old, poor person living somewhere and you barely have any money. They have Medicare Advantage plans that give you substandard health care, but you pay absolutely nothing. Your Medicare payments that would normally go to, go into the system, the government gives it all to that private company to administer your health care. But that person has the option of having just getting standard Medicare without Medigap, and if they get into trouble, They will have to cover their 20%, drugs, and all these other issues. So I am trying to find a way, Tom, how I can live within the pragmatic state that many Americans are living in right now, where they can't afford Medigap and Part D. All right? And at the same time, ensure that we change the system, that we get health care for all people without all the private sector jumbo. And it starts a lot with what Bernie is doing, which means give all these eye coverages and get rid of the option that the Medigap is doing. In the interim, though, there are a lot of people that are being fooled into getting Medicare Advantage who don't want it because they don't realize they don't have choices when they have Medicare Advantage, and that's where you come in, right? You are part of the education of Americans over 65 getting Medicare. You and I have to write into AARP. We have to come on the radio like you are right now. You calling into this show, you gave me the ability to articulate what I just did.
Sir,
is that helpful at all?
Oh, yes. I agree with you. So write a letter and you address it to the CEO of AARP.
Yes, and within the letter, there are some specifics that I think we should put, that you will be advertising that the AARP is supporting for many of its members the privatization of healthcare, which will damage their constituents in the long run. You know, They need to know that you are going to take a political stance and that you're not just complaining.
Oh, no, I'm not complaining. I just, I agree with you, but you can't afford not to have straight Medicare and a supplemental insurance policy. This advantage is just tremendous. It's a lie.
Yes.
And it's misleading to seniors, regardless where you're at on this economic level.
Yes, it's terrible. I mean, they have license to lie, and we don't do anything about it. But we, the people, have to do about it, and that's why I promise. I don't know if you heard the lady that I had on. Kathy Courtney was on Friday. I'm making this a mission to constantly talk about Medicare Advantage and Social Security, Medicare Advantage and Social Security, because we are so misled into all those who are attempting to privatize these different sectors. And sir, it's not only Republicans, it's also a whole bunch of neoliberals that are actually trying to do this. So we all have to work hard.
You're absolutely right.
We have to work hard to do it. Anything else you'd like to say? And did I answer that? Do you think I answered that sufficiently well for others to get it?
Very well. And should I go with a phone call or should I go ahead and actually write them?
I'm going to tell you, please don't hurt me for this. I would do both.
Both? Okay.
Yes, sir. There's never too much. Never too. And ask people who you know to do the same as well. Oh, it seems like we lost. Let's go to Lee now, actually no. Wait, no. Who's? I think you have read on somebody, but I don't know which. Lee, come on in, Lee.
Okay, Edberto,
yes, sir.
You're absolutely more knowledgeable than I am, and I don't have the resources you have. I have Medicare. I don't have an Advantage program. What is the difference between Medigap and the Advantage program?
All right. Medigap is, first of all, Medigap is also private insurance, right? But the major part of the insurance is done by the government, meaning Medicare is paid for by the government, okay? You have the option to go to any doctor you want to go to. You have your choices of medicines. You have your choices of everything. Of course, all of this is within, you can't go to a quack or something like that, but you have the ability to go to whichever doctor you want. In fact, if you get certain kinds of cancers, you can go to MD Anderson or you can go to the Mayo Clinic or any one of these people that don't take most of these Medicare Advantage programs, okay? Now, the Medigap is simply the part of Medicare that, it's an insurance policy that pays for what Medicare does not. You know, most policies that you have, a private policy, it's always 80-20, right? Well, Medicare is an 80-20 policy also, but it's paid for by the government. You don't pay it, the government pays it. Now, for Medigap, you have to pay that little bit for Medigap. And it's a private thing that just covers what they don't cover in standard Medicare. Now, the way they get to you is as follows, Lee. The way I'm coming to you next, Paul. The way they get is as follows, Lee. The insurance companies have spoken to the government to prevent them from adding eyes, ears, and what's the other thing? Eyes, ears, and something else. Eyes, ears, and dental. Okay? They don't offer that as a part of standard Medicare, so you also have to buy riders if you want. You can get a Medigap that also includes, or some parts of it that includes dental, hearing, and eyes. And the reason it doesn't offer that is that, again, the politicians are in hock to these insurance companies. Bernie has tried to add those 3 items to standard Medicare, and I think in the long run we will get that done. But to put it bluntly, the biggest other option or problem with Medicare Advantage over standard Medicare is when you just start Medicare, you are offered Medigap, and they have to take the private companies, irrespective of your illness, must take Medigap. Must take you on, irrespective of your health care or your health state, and at the going price. They can't charge you more. Now, if you go to Medicare Advantage, which is completely private, and then you say they are not serving my purposes, so I want to go back to Medicare. When you go back to Medicare, when you attempt to buy the Medigap policy, you won't be able to get the Medigap policy without going through the insurance, trying to figure out if you are a good risk or not, which means they could charge you any amount or not sell it to you at all. Is that clearer at all?
It is 90%.
Tell me what I need to clear up further.
But you still need to clarify, how do I get on Medigap, and what does that really cover?
Okay, Medigap is just to pay the 20% Medicare does not.
That's the only thing.
That's it.
How do I get on that?
You can just go ahead and you have to be careful here, because when you go to buy Medigap, they may try to scam you into changing over to Medicare Advantage. So so you don't want them to do that. So I'm going to ask you, I don't have the answer in front of me right now. So please send me an email to info@politicsdoneright.com.
I can't do emails.
Oh, you can't do emails? Okay, well, I tell you what then. I will post something or get back, or you can call me on Wednesday, my next show. I will have an answer for you.
That works.
That
You're
works?
Absolutely wonderful. Fantastic.
Thank you so kindly, Lee.
And across the board, I fight with people all the time about Medicare Advantage.
Right.
And I know what it does, and I know what it doesn't do.
Right.
And people are so amazed when I tell them, no, that stuff just don't work.
Exactly. Brother Lee, thank you so kindly for calling. I'll try to get that answer by Wednesday. I got to put it on my calendar to get it for you. Okay, sir?
I will call on Wednesday. Thanks, bye.
You have a wonderful day, sir. All right, Paul, come on in. How you doing, Paul?
Fine. How are you, Mr.
I am
Willie?
doing fine, sir. Thank you. Please don't call me Mr. Willis. Call me Egberto. Man, I feel old when you do that to me, Paul.
That's funny. I do the same thing when people say that to me.
Yes. Talk to me.
I was calling you first of all about the topic you were just speaking on, and in my former career, I used to work in HR, and when people signed up for insurance with the company, you had a class to sit in for that explained to you what your benefits are.
Right.
Pretty ironic, though, that when you retire, you don't get that same class.
Right.
Because most of the time, when you work, you forget about what you sat down and what you signed up for. When you retire, they just send you information, and then, you're not going to sit there and read all of that information.
Right.
And what the states around the country should do when people retire is have you come into the offices, because they have meeting rooms, and have these people sit down and explain to them the insurance that they will now have and the importance of Medigap. But the problem now is, I believe because Reagan passed bills when Reagan was in office that allowed insurance companies to advertise on TV. Mm-hmm. But you never see the government advertising on TV for people that are just now retiring.
Exactly.
So they bought them out from the start.
Right.
So that's a hurdle that, again, it would have to be like when Obama had both houses for them to pass legislation for people to be able to revert back to that.
Right.
Because in the beginning, I had, I'm on SSI, mm-hmm. and I had Medigap in the beginning.
Right.
But because, this is what happened to me, because my wife started selling insurance, health insurance and life insurance, she convinced me to go with
the Medicare
Advantage.
Yeah.
Right. So,
there was a big pay up front. It's amazing because you can sell one Medicare Advantage policy, and the person who sold that policy, that's a $3,000 or $4,000 paycheck to them right there.
Right. And then if you have your Series 6 license, as long as the person keeps renewing that policy, you continue to get paid each and every year.
Exactly.
So that's how they've let this become not be privatized. Now it's public.
It is privatized. Well, Paul, I want to say one thing because
AARP is bought off.
Right.
So they're going to keep pushing it.
Because
there's no way to get.
They all get. Think about this. AARP, and I don't know this for a fact. But I can imagine if AARP is the person who the affiliate who gets it out there. It wouldn't surprise me if AARP is making a piece of everybody's policy as they renew.
They have to be.
Yes.
It's probably some person in there that has an insurance company.
Right.
And now that's the way they get, profits on their end for pushing.
Right. So we are gonna, but I'm glad you realize that it's a scam, and that again, all those people who sell Advantage, they make a whole lot of money up front for selling you a policy. Yeah, they convince you on a lie, and then they make a lot of money for convincing you on a lie. But Paul, go ahead, Paul.
The insurance salesperson part, it's not explained to them.
Right.
I've gone things with my spouse, and she, it was never explained that way about what they're selling to people.
Well, Paul, I got to go to another call, but I wanted to do it real quick too. I have to call you back and get in line. Oh no, go ahead, say it real quick.
The racial part too, real quick.
Yes.
And how Republicans all of a sudden want to be woke about something.
Right.
Like, when did slave people become the enemy, first of all? So white folks, they enslaved us, then they segregated us, then they lynched thousands of us, then they created racial profiling and a racist war on drugs, and then began moving out of our communities when 8% of us would move into a subdivision. They move on or move further away from us. So then the neighborhood becomes black. But black people are the hate group. Should we stay away from them?
No, that you're talking about. What that guy did. I read about what he said. Let me tell you something. First of all, right? We have to change the narrative, and that is exactly what you just did there. You have to change the narrative. How can the colonizer, the enslaver, or whatever? Why would they be scared of you if it's already been proven that they had you under control, right? It is a mind game, and unfortunately, it's a mind game played by a very few to convince the very many. So let's always remember that. That's why I talk about loving everybody, because if you can get into everybody's mindset and let them realize that it's a few puppeteers that are creating what we have today, we could solve all of our problems. And the hardest thing to do is to prevent us from fighting among each other, and instead fight. If we get there, we will realize who the puppeteers really are, Paul. And that's my goal with this program, with what I do, with blogging and everything else.
They always kill in the name of God.
Yes.
Separate you in the name of God. And that's what runs people away from religion, because you're doing this because God told me.
Right.
God ain't just only speaking to you.
There you go.
God is. And
Paul,
what you say may not Right.
Got to go, Paul, but thank you so kindly for calling with all this info. Okay, brother?
Yeah, all right.
Take care now. All right, let's go to Ted. Come on in, Ted.
Yes. Hi, Egberto. I'm a fan of your show.
Thank you, sir, so kindly, sir.
I'd just like to tell you that I'm 70 years old right now, and I'm in pretty good health. But when I reached 65, I went straight into Medicare Advantage, and it was really the best medical care I've ever had. And I think it may be because of the doctors, of course, because of the doctors I went to. And eventually I wound up being with Kelsey Siebold, and it was a really excellent program.
Kelsey's a complete healthcare, yes.
Yeah, they've got a great patient portal. They've got good doctors. You basically go to the one hospital and get all your stuff done, and it was a really good program. And I switched just a few months ago from Advantage to traditional Medicare, and it wasn't, of course, because of all the benefits with Advantage, and it certainly wasn't because of any bad treatment that I'd gotten. It was just the opposite. I mean, it included drugs
and eyes, dental, everything.
Yeah, dental. Yeah.
So let me
gym membership.
Let me just to make sure that.
But I will
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I was going to say that the reason I switched was because I wasn't exactly sure that as time went on and I got more and more decrepit as I got older, that they would necessarily recognize all of my ailments to my satisfaction. Being a for-profit group, they may actually try to shave off and save money where I didn't really agree with that.
You are a very smart man. And let me tell you, and it's good that you moved when you were still healthy so you could get an affordable Medigap program. Okay?
Yes.
So you did it the right. You moved from Medicare. So let's qualify it, because I want to be 100% honest in what I'm talking about. There are people who are on Medicare Advantage, again, within the Kelsey group. And I just realized, though, that Kelsey was bought out. They used to be a nonprofit. Now they're a for-profit. Now they are for-profit.
That was another reason why I switched.
Right. But Kelsey, when I went to Kelsey, it's one of the first places that I felt I got good healthcare within the program, because it was all tied in together. Your healthcare was managed by different doctors, but they're all seen through one portal. It was well organized. In fact, it was one of the first things that got approval from Obamacare as being one of their select carriers. But that's not enough. We can't speak about having a great Kelsey Siebold here in Houston, but the rest of America is burning. And now that Kelsey is private, is owned, is been sold for profit, you have to then ask if that great service can continue, or do we have to make sure that the shareholders are made whole? So you made, in my humble opinion, the perfect choice. And lucky for you, you made the change when your health was still okay, that you could get Medigap at affordable costs. Now, the problem is, Ted, the reason I tell folks, if they don't have to have Medicare Advantage at all, it's best to never get there. It may cost you a couple $100 more a month, maybe $150 more a month or whatever. It's best to do that than to be relegated to where the Mayo Clinic won't see you if for some reason you needed them, or the Herman won't see you if they needed you, or, it is just not worth it. Your health is worth more. And then together we ought to be fighting for health care for all, that we don't have to worry about Medicare. We don't have to worry about Medigap. Once you have a card, I interviewed a guy from Canada. Once you have a card, you have health care. You go see your primary. Your primary then goes ahead and is the director that says you need this, that. That is an efficient system that works.
Oh, I agree. I agree totally. One thing I did want to kind of observe there is that the main reason for me to get Medigap is because it has a max out of pocket. The one shortcoming of traditional Medicare is it's 80% versus 20%.
Right.
So if you have a $1 million brain surgery, then you're
out for $200,000.
$200,000.
Oh yeah.
So that was the main reason I think to have Medigap.
Exactly.
Really, with Advantage, the max out of pocket is already included, and it's actually lower than the traditional Medicare typical Medigap.
Yes.
It's about say $3,700, or it was about that much with Kelsey-Seybold. It was the max out of pocket. So yeah, my main problem was, like you noted there, that Kelsey-Seybold used to be local. And then they were bought out, and so anything could happen there, and so I didn't want to risk that going forward. And while I was healthy, it was extremely easy. But it was a couple hours on the phone, but it was really very straightforward because I was healthy. If I had not been healthy, I could have been denied Medigap, and then traditional Medicare is tricky if you don't have Medigap.
If you notice, I told Lee, because Lee asked me how to get Medigap, and I said I'll have to research it, because what I didn't want Lee to do is call some broker. And what many of these brokers do is they depend on the ignorance of most of us when it comes to Medicare. And in signing you up for Medigap, what they really do is transfer you to Medicare Advantage. And that is what I don't want to happen to the young man. I think it is so dishonest. Our entire medical system is so dishonest. We should be, as a country, we should be ashamed of ourselves. But Ted, thank you so kindly for calling in with your story.
One thing I'd like to mention is there may not be many people in my situation that were in Medicare Advantage that want to switch to traditional Medicare. But if they do, I would strongly suggest they do go to an agent and let them work it out. That was a very easy process for me to switch from Medicare Advantage to traditional.
Do you do emails?
I do emails. Yes.
Since you have the actual experience with one, please go ahead and send me the broker. And this is not for recommendation as a station or anything like this, but I just want to help a caller that comes in. If you could send me an email at info@politicsdoneright.com so that I can help relay that information to the other caller.
I'll certainly do that.
Thank you so kindly, Ted. You have a wonderful rest of your day, okay?
Same to you, Egberto. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, folks. I love, Tori, I love when our callers, like I always tell about our show, this show belongs to the audience, not me. I come prepared for an entire show, but if they change it around, so be it. And again, today we got changed around with some Medicare Advantage and Medicare stuff, which I think is more important to the community than the story I had. Anyway, even though I have time for the story now, unless I get more calls at 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. By the way, folks, I want to thank all of you for giving us a great fund drive. We were only short by $3,000, and we can make that up if you just go ahead and go to kpft.org and support us. Remember to select Politics Done Right as a show who recommended that you do this. And come on in.
All lines are open, and Politics Done Right is a target-rich environment. There's a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. So, and let me just tell you, our good friend Tori, who is our engineer here, he kind of proposed a few things to me recently about bringing some very good professional historians and topics in here that we are going to make very palatable to you all. So I want to give Tori an on-air thank you for producing a few of the shows that we're going to be doing right here at KPFT 90.1 FM on Politics Done Right. So Tori, muchísimas gracias, señor.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Anyway, the title of the show. Now we're going to go back to what the title of the show was. 2 weekend stories touch me. A real healthcare story and a real racial story. I won't read the subtitle, but I'll start with the first story. This was a great weekend. As usual, I spoke to many people, whether it was about my living book or just in general. Being a part of a living library is always fun. People read a synopsis of your book, and if they like it, they check you out, and you sit at a table and you tell your story. I always leave a few minutes for questions. I really enjoy that because I love the conversation. I love entertaining people's minds and them entertaining my mind. The first story comes from a woman who checked out my living book. which was excerpted from my latest Amazon Vela series book titled Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism Didn't Stop My Smile, Hope, or Journey Forward. I told the story about coming to America and all that I went through. I told her about some real issues, then often being the only black person in my engineering classes at the University of Texas and having had bad interactions with professors. I told her about business contracts that were canceled when it was in-person signature time. I told her about when my Taiwanese partner finally figured out what this Panamanian immigrant looked like. I wondered out loud, why did she choose to check my book out? She's a white woman in an interracial relationship, it turns out, and her kids are having problems in the area, in the Kingwood area. Her husband just wanted them to toughen up, but her motherly instinct just felt for the kids. After listening to all that I went through in the country, she wanted to know how I could cope so well and maintain a positive outlook. I told her, we choose how to let externalities affect us. I came from parents who told me I was no better nor smarter than anyone else, and that no one else was smarter or better than I was. I grew up from I was in elementary school knowing that. I told her her kids should be told that they are not the problem, but it is the problem of others, and to find a niche that always exists for one to be a part of. We discussed other things, and she found our discourse helpful. So by the end of the discussion, it turns out she was a bit timid in talking about the issue, and then she opened up and she really went ahead and said, yeah, that, she encouraged, she knew it could work. Another woman was at the table as I was relaying the stories, and, we're talking about biases, etc. And she came up and she said, I get it, because we're talking about the different types of prejudices, whether it's be racial, gays, women, etc. And then I made a statement that said, one of the most ones that get discounted is what women go through. And I said, I think more than any other prejudice, this one is so prevalent because all races, all ethnic groups seem to have this one target, somehow, women, for this type of prejudice. I said, I think it's the worst. I get into trouble a lot of times because I would say things like, Obama got into office before Hillary did. And, and I'm not talking about political, whether you like folk politically or not. That's not the issue. The issue is that if you had told me that a black man would get into office before a white woman would, I would be shocked. And I was shocked that that is exactly what happened. I've written in several of my books what stories made me understand that Obama would have been president in 2008. But women, men, we have to do a lot better. Notice what I said, men. No adjectives around men. Men, we have to do a lot better. And I'm going to shock a few, and women also, because a lot of the problems within the woman's scope as well is that some of women's worst, and I'm talking as a man who just watches now. This is what I see. This is what is told to me, that sometimes women can be women's worst enemies with regards to equality and equity. Anybody can call and say, "Better shut up, you're not a woman." That would be fine. But again, these are things that I've been told. 713-526-5738. Before I get to the other story, anybody wants to comment on that story? I have another story that's coming up. 713-526-5738. All right, this other story is sort of onto kind of what we were talking about. And welcome aboard YT4ME57. He says, thank you for the information, Egberto. You are most welcome, sir. Eric says Kelsey-Seybold, yes, good system, good for those who can do it. Yeah, Kelsey-Seybold is actually, when I knew it, was a good system. Now that they've been bought, I don't know. All right. As I sat at a table waiting to be checked out again, I was speaking to a woman north of 65 years old about Medicare Advantage and healthcare in general. She then said something that lit me up. She said, the happiest day for me was when I turned 65, she said. At midnight, I cried with joy. And 2 weeks after that, I had to have gallbladder surgery. And as she was telling me that story, my heart sank. And the reason why is, imagine, look, from the time I came to this country, I started out at Blinn College, then the University of Texas. Then I've always had a job with corporate America for the first 5 years. And after that, I had my own company. Every time for the first part of owning that company, while my wife was still working, we were on her insurance policy. When she quit to take care of Ashley and become a full-time, with my companies, I always had private insurance. So I had never known not having insurance. And I remember when Donald Trump was when we had a feeling he was going to win, my wife was still not working, and I was still paying the crazy prices for private insurance, north of $10,000 deductible, meaning before I had to spend $10,000 before anything paid, and I was paying something like $2,000 a month or more in a monthly payment. So I was out several decades and thousands of dollars in insurance. And she knew that was unsustainable, and she said, she was going to go get a part-time job so that we could have insurance. I wouldn't have to have the private insurance, but the insurance from whatever company that she could work for. And I remember that's probably the first time in our lives that we felt, I wonder what it would be like if for some reason we had to go without insurance. And it wasn't long before, in Kingwood, it wasn't long before, but in Kingwood, there's this woman who couldn't afford insurance, and she did all kinds of things like, nice home and everything, but no health insurance because of how the percentage of the budget that insurance policy would have been. And again, and like I'm saying, this woman lives in a big house, all that good stuff. And she got pregnant and she was going to have the baby. So instead of going to the hospital, she had a midwife and had the baby. I think you can still look that story up in the Kingwood Observer. And she eventually had the kid, got sepsis, I believe, and died. She didn't have insurance. She died. That's her story. But this is a story that's told all over this country millions of times a year. In Texas alone, we have over 2,000 deaths per year, over 2,000 deaths a year, because people don't have or can't afford insurance. Even as bad as, let's say, the ACA is based on coverage, etc., we can get it for many for free or for 10% by the state, but free for the customer. But we don't do it because of our ideological pulls, our immoral way of being in Austin. Remember, we have an immoral legislature. Any legislature that has the ability to give its citizens health care and doesn't, it's immoral, it's evil, and they are killers. Involuntary? Nope, it's actually voluntary killing, because we know the outcome of not having insurance for many is death. So if you voted for those people in Austin who continue to refuse your fellow Texans insurance, you are complicit in the murder of many, many, many of your Texas brothers and sisters. It sounds, the way I'm saying that may offend some, but if you're supporting those who don't support health care that is available now without increasing the budget or anything now for ideological reasons, for having believed a lie that somehow accepting Medicare for all or these types of policies somehow is anti whatever ideology you have. Personally speaking, the way my morals, I couldn't sleep at night knowing that absent me supporting X person, they would have lived. I couldn't do it. Anyway, continuing the story with this woman, she said, the happiest day for me was when I turned 65. At midnight, I cried with joy. And 2 weeks later after that, I had to have gallbladder surgery. Wow. Wow. Had she needed surgery 2 weeks earlier, she could have gone bankrupt. I took out my phone and I asked her if I could video her story. She accepted. The woman was an adjunct professor. An adjunct professor, an educated woman, a professional woman. Universities and colleges get the use of well-educated people that teach thousands of their students, thousands of our kids, thousands for a fixed fee that is generally effectively less than minimum wage. Worse, there are no benefits to pay the bills. Many adjunct professors go from one college system to the next, to the next, to the next, and sign contracts to see how many $3,000 contracts can they sign, how many $1,500 contracts can they sign, how many $4,500 contracts can they sign. You see the morality. You know what I think, and you know what I constantly say on this program. The most important profession in the world, bar none, are teachers. Why do we serve teachers so wrongly? Why do we have them go through hoops? Why don't we want to keep their minds clear so that they can teach our kids without having to worry about, I have to run over here and teach, over there and teach so that I can live myself? Why? While a stockbroker who does nothing but move money and create financial instruments, many a times hurting the average American citizen, doesn't have to worry about it. Why? We support this kind of stuff, people. My brothers and sisters, when you create a vote for somebody who's going to lie to you on these issues, you are complicit. You know? We have to stop being complicit in the immoral. We have to stop being complicit in harming our brothers and sisters. We have to stop being complicit in doing these things. When do we stop? When do we start actually not believing what the corporatist is going to tell you because they want an extra buck in their pocket that you won't see, but they would have you believe if you follow them, somehow, sometime, you will be able to be like them. We will never be. This nice lady said she got her well woman exams and service at Planned Parenthood for free. I stopped. This woman who couldn't get health insurance because she couldn't afford it. This woman who was under 65 for most of her life had to go to Planned Parenthood to get health care. And what do the people that too many vote for decide to do? They want to outlaw Planned Parenthood as well. The one place that would give these people health care because they do abortions also. It's Planned Parenthood. Plan how to be able to have kids responsibly. But no, these troglodytes, not only in Austin, in the Supreme Court, in Washington, D.C., these troglodytes will harm your daughter, your niece. People, we can't allow them to keep snowing us. And by the way, they're not doing that because they don't want women they just want women to have kids. They're doing that as payback to some Neanderthals who run many evangelical churches. It's a payback for their vote because you know what? They know I give that evangelical pastor what he wants, and you know what that evangelical pastor does? He commands his pew. He commands his followers who to vote for, what to vote for. It's simple. That's why many times America like dictatorships. I don't have to go to the population. I get the dictator to do what I want. I get the preacher to do what I want. And what I give the preacher the ability to kill Planned Parenthood to fulfill his wishful thinking. You know, the Hasselbeck Church in California got kicked out of the Southern Baptist Union, or whatever that group of churches are called, because they decided to anoint women. Because they allowed women to be pastors, these guys threw them out of the Baptist Union. American Taliban rings a bell? Does it ring a bell, folks? American Taliban? Look, when you make changes subtly, sometimes it gets past us. That's why you got politics done right. Because we don't let these subtle changes that make changes and that hurts us go by. We try to warn. We try to inform. We try to let you know what's on the horizon, folks. This ain't no joke. This ain't no joke. The reason many are trying totalitarianism, or however you pronounce that right now, is because too many people started to get too damn smart. You guys have been getting smart, so the dumbification begins. I have a blog that I'm going to be doing on my 3 o'clock show called The Dumbification of the GOP. I think I called it the dumbification of the Republican Party. It's not an insult or anything. It's just what's being done. And Trump pretty much told you that's, here's a dumb guy saying he wants his party to be dumber. What can I say, But I mean, it's what he proposed. It's what he said. So, folks, I think Eric says if you bring up Taliban, you need to profess the responsibility of Afghanistan debacle and pull out in August. No, we are not nation builders, brother Eric. There was a time that you guys used to talk like that. We're not nations builders. If we pulled out of Afghanistan as we should, the question is, Afghanistan has men and women. Afghanistan can choose, if they want to not have the government that they have. We can't use American resources everywhere in the world to control their politics and to control that. We can't. We cannot do that. An invasion by Russia, I would deem something that is worth taking care of. Why? That's one independent country invading another country. But Afghanistan doesn't compute in that regard. We shouldn't have been there in the first place. We shouldn't have been in Iraq in the first place. So no, that's not a valid argument at all, my dear friend Eric Hayes. Not at all. Paul Fleming says AARP has been bought by Big Pharma. That will be hard nut to crack when it's not explained to people when they qualify for Medicare what if actually does, and if not, other benefits it's needed. I agree with you, Paul. We're going to have to tell the truth, and that's why when Ted told Ted, you got to go. I think it was Ted. You got to write AARP. You got to call AARP. We got to let them know that we know what's going on. But if my reductio ad absurdum is correct, my hunch is that the reason AARP is out there selling as many Medicare Advantage or recommending, I don't know if they're an affiliate, I don't know if they're advising for Medicare Advantage. My hunch is that I bet for every single policy they sell, that nonprofit makes a whole bunch of money. Because, for people who sell Medicare Advantage, they get quite a few $1,000s up front. That's how it is. Hey, Tori, you're there sitting by the phone. Is there anything you want to add before I go on to kind of finish up?
No. Go ahead and run down the clock here. We only have a couple more minutes. And So, give us your last thoughts.
Yeah. I never run out of thoughts. I just saw you sitting there, and I said, I know Tori likes the conversation, and sometimes he wants to add to the conversation. So anyway, folks, going back to my living library where I was actually a book. And you know what? I didn't tell people to call, but it's kind of too late to call right now. But the second half of the show, I didn't tell it. I don't think I called the number out. Oh, my bad. Folks, remember when you're listening to Politics Done Right, you guys can call at any time. Anyhow, when I sat and spoke to that woman about this, and like I said, I'm going to cover it at 3 o'clock as well. I wanted to pull out here's that I didn't have, because everybody that I spoke to had a healthcare issue. And I'm not talking about they're sick. I'm talking about the mechanics of healthcare in America. And that we, with all of us so mad, so upset with our healthcare system, that we cannot do something about it. I have to put the onus on us. We may have to do that real quick. I may have to put that onus on us. Okay? We have to not fall for the crap. Go ahead and come on in. Who do I have the honor of speaking with?
This is Jake Egberto.
Talk to me, Jake.
Yeah. I've been trying to get in touch with you for the last couple of weeks. I've never around at the right time. Coming back from an errand about, I guess, 2 weeks ago.
Let me just tell you one thing, Jake, before you go. I have exactly 45 seconds for you to speak, so go ahead.
It'll only take 30.
Okay.
Nancy Eisenberg wrote a book called White Trash, and a lady recommended it to you, and you said, I'll put it on my reading list. And I meant to call in. I tried to call in that day, and I ran out of time. But I wanted to recommend it to you. I have read the book, and I don't know if you had a chance to look at it or not.
I haven't, and I'm glad that you reminded me, because with all that's going on, I forgot. So thank you so much.
Oh, I know. We all get busy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. It's a really well-written book, and it has lots of data that I know will be right down your pipeline.
Sir,
I enjoy your show. I'll let you get back to it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
okay, folks, it looks like Tori told me I got about 20 more seconds or so to go. So here we go. I want to thank you all for listening to the show. You guys are an integral part of this show. I want this show, as we go forward, to make it very communicative, and you become a part of it. So here we go. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.